Hello everyone, this is Adit back again with another video. So in this video, we are going to learn about how to create a drag and drop functionality in JavaScript. And by the process, we are going to build a to-do application where we're just going to create a to-do and then we are going to add the functionality to drop the to-do item from one column to other column. So this will look something similar to this, like if we create a to-do list, it goes to the backlog, and once we are done with it, we can just move it to the to-do, or we can move it to the complete, or we can again move back to backlog, and we can create multiple to-do list. So basically we can have other things over here as well, and we can also move up and down. So this is what we are going to create in this video, and this is pretty simple actually. So let's get started now. So here I have already created one directory called drag and drop yt, and inside this directory we are going to create our first file, that is index.html. Inside that file, let's just write in HTML boilerplate code, and over here what we are going to have first div, which is going to have input container. So inside the input container we are just going to have input, which is going to have text, and then a button, which will once we press on the button, then this input will, like, we will get this input text and then render it on the screen. So let's just have a button name with create to do, and let's just start our server first. Okay, so this is how this looks as of now. So now we need to add few more things, and to add those we're just going to have one container, and inside the container we are going to have list container backlog, and inside that we're just going to give a heading called backlog. Okay, then we are going to have another div with the list container, and this is going to be to do. Let's call it to do, and then we are going to have list container and complete. Okay, and let's just add for heading this one as well, just add complete. And now let's just create our css file. Let's just call styles.css, and then another one is going to be index.js. Let's just link those files. Link css, style.css, and we are going to have script as well, and this is going to index.js, and I'm just going to pass defer to it so that it loads at the end. Yes, so let's just save it, and as of now this is how our screen looks. Here it is. Now we are just going to add some flexbox and stuff to make it align in a horizontal direction. So to do that, let's go to our style sheet, and let's first of all have dot input container. Let's have margin 20 pixel, and then we're just going to have container as well, container which is going to display flex direction, row, justify content space between, and then align item center. I hope you guys are already aware of this flexbox properties. List container, let's put a height of 80 vh, and we are also going to have a width which is going to be 100%. Then for the backlog, let's put some background color. and let's call it candidate blue. Let's have to do as well with the background color chocolate, and there is another one for complete. We are going to have background color brown. And then for the to do card, let's just have padding 20 pixel, margin 5 pixel, and then text align center, border 1 pixel, solid black, and then we're just going to have cursor which is going to have move, right? So let's see how this looks on our screen. So this is how it will look after adding all the CSS, and these are the colors and to do a headline. We can customize the CSS as well, but the goal of this tutorial is to use the drag and drop API of the API. So I'm just going to focus on drag and drop now. So now what we are going to do, let's have our input first. Document dot get element by ID input, and I think I haven't passed any ID to the input, so let's just input, and for this one as well, let's just pass create btn. Let's just save it, and we're just going to also have a create button. Document dot get element by ID create tn, and then on create button, what is going to happen, we are going to have add event listener, and on click, let's just console log first of all what we are getting. Let's just console log input dot value. Okay, so now we just put it over here. Let's just open our console, and once we pass some text inside this input and press create to do, so we are able to get this value, right? So now what we're going to do is we are going to create an element const div document dot create element div. Div is going to have text content as input dot value, and div is also we are also going to add some class property. Let's have to do card, and we have also already created styles for to do card inside our style.css over here. So we just add that, and one more style that I wanted to put is let's have let's add a class list for draggable, and a few to make the element draggable, we need to set attribute as draggable true. So let's just have set attribute and draggable. So basically how what set attribute will do is like to make this any component draggable, you need to pass draggable as true. So this is what we are going to pass in the draggable item. So basically we are creating our draggable item from our JavaScript. So yeah, and now what we're going to add is like some event listeners to make the component draggable. Before adding this event listeners, let's just get the reference to this backlog or list container. So let's just get the reference to this list container, and let's add our this div to the list container. So to do that, let's just have list container document dot query selector container, just class, it's a class, so that's why dot list container, and then list container dot append child, just going to pass div. Now if we just create a to do, so it will go over here, and since we have added the attribute to draggable true, so that's why we are have to move it, but currently it is not going to set in any other column, so we need to figure out how to do that. Okay, so now to make to we need to add some attributes, sorry, add event listeners. So to add event listener, let's just have drag start, and if we just console log dragging, so let's just call it drag start, and then we are going to have another event listener which will be drag end. Console.log and just save it, and if we just go over here, and inside here we just create some element, just create one, and if we just start dragging, so we are getting drag start, and once we leave it drag once we leave it, it will give drag end as well. So now we need to add some properties over here. So to distinguish which element is which item we are dragging, I'm just going to, when the dragging is start, I'm just going to add a class list dot add, and this is going to be called dragging, and once the dragging is complete, div dot class list dot add, we're just going to remove the dragging. Okay, so let's just hide this. So what this will do is, like, it will create a component with a dragging property. Okay, and once we start dragging, then it is going to have a dragging class as well, but when we stop the dragging, then dragging class will be removed. If you want, you can just console log and you will have to see that, but let's just continue for now. And then we are going to get our list containers. So all of the list containers, let's just get list box and document dot query select all. Let's just have list container, and inside the list box, we're just going to for each list. So basically, if there is more than one item, so basically so what happens is, like, we have 3 of them, so basically on each of the item, when user moves it, so we want to grab that over there. So we need to add a event listener on each of the element using drag over. So let's just have list dot add event listener and call it drag over, and then what we can do is let's have element document dot query selector, and since when we start the dragging, we have this dragging class on that particular element, so we are going to get that particular element from here, dragging, and once the dragging is over, we just append this dragging element to the list. So let's just save it and let's see if this works. So we are able to move it. Okay, but this is giving like this again goes back to that particular element, right? So to achieve that, we need to, like, by default we can't you can't move one element over another, so that's why we need to add prevent default over here. Let's just save it and let's create one element, and then if we try to move it, it will not go back to any other component. Okay, and similarly we can create more than one to do, and we just move it everywhere. So this is how we can implement the drag and drop properties. And there are options like you can add more features to it. And if you want to learn more about the drag and drop, then I would suggest you to go this web3 school tutorial, and here it is all there, like these are the properties: drag over, drag on, drag over, and all those things. So for in our tutorial we have only used drag start, dragend, and drag over. Okay, and like one more thing that we can do is like beside the dragging we can add opacity 0.5. so basically what will happen is once we start the dragging, it will give some visual effect as well. Okay, yes, so this is how we can work with the drag and drop in JavaScript and HTML and CSS. So this is it for this video. If you like the video, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching.